Welcome to Craft and Crashouts with your co-hosts Mick and Ari. We are both writers trying to become traditionally published, and on this podcast, we meet every week to discuss craft, progress, and what we are currently crashing out about.
So, are you reading anything this week?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm still slowly working through like the Hunger Games trilogy, but like very slow. I think right now, because I set pretty like high lofty goal for myself this December, where like I'm trying to hit a writing like scene goal like every day, just working on things. I'm like so much deeper in the writing trenches than I've been the last few months that reading gets harder for me when I'm writing so much. So I'll still do like I'll read a book. Like I have 3 different books that I kind of rotate for like tone and mood and like atmosphere to like I'll flip through kind of like a tarot reading of sorts and just like read a scene. It's books I've already read to like set the stage, but yeah, I find it harder to like sit down and read when I'm in the writing trenches, which sucks because like the weather has been so great for reading.
Like warm, cozy winter.
Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, if you have any recommendations, I don't know. I actually want to start a series. Like I'm reading The Hunger Games, but it's a series I've already read. And I'm like, I want to be so wrapped up in a series right now. Like I want to head down, don't look up for like 3 days, forget to eat type of into a story. I haven't had that in a long time. Honestly, probably since Red Rising, and that's been a while. And I I'm obsessed with that series, but I have yet to find a series that makes me feel that way. And it's because I need some that are like completed that I can like binge through.
Can I recommend a series to you?
Yes.
Maybe it'll be your speed. It won't, but I feel like I talk about N.K. Jemisin like every single episode, but
I was just thinking, I was like, you're going to recommend 5th season, aren't you?
I really am. The Broken Earth.
Okay.
It's probably my favorite trilogy, like fantasy trilogy. It's just so well done. And so I would really recommend it. I also had a question, like, do you find that you gravitate towards reading less when you're writing because you're kind of more like a sponge in that way, where you feel like your prose will reflect whatever it is that you're reading when you're writing?
I don't know if my prose, well, I don't know. Maybe more than I think. I don't know if I'm going to put this into the podcast. How controversial do I want to be? Because I think I talked about, I don't know, maybe I'll just tell you this, but like I think I talked about or I talked about it somewhere on the internet, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that on the internet. I was like hate reading a book for the first time ever. I usually DNF books. Like if I'm not down with it, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not precious about finishing a book. I don't understand how people like read books that they hate until I was reading this one book, and it's the first book of the Zodiac Academy series. I'm so sorry if you love that series, but like I
have seen the internet discourse on this series. Don't worry.
I was more like, it felt like watching a car crash that I just like had to understand how it happened and like what's going on. It is like if like romantasy spice writers wrote a Disney Channel original movie.
Okay. Very well described. I feel like I can feel the texture of it from that.
Yeah. Yep. There's something on it called like Facebook. That's her social media.
No.
Ari,
are you kidding?
I am not kidding. I'm not kidding. It's also just really bad in like, there's like a lot of like consensual issues. Like it's really weird. Like, I don't know, they're fae, but they're more vampires, and they just like suck your blood with no consent as like a power tool. It is so uncomfortable. It is the weirdest book I've ever read. Okay. I did find that when I was reading that book, my writing was horrible. It was horrible.
Really?
And I do wonder if it's like, I mean, I didn't think the writing was good. In Zodiac Academy, it is very like stilted. I just feel like it's it leans way more juvenile when it's supposed to be like an adult book, but like the sentence structure and the words used.
So like the content is adult, but like the actual language that's used feels more.
Is like middle grade.
Yeah. Okay. Understood.
Like, it's like the sentence structure style. And so I did feel like I was writing scenes where I'm like, oh my God, this is like not my usual, like you've read my writing, like tone, voice,
Yeah.
sentence structure at all. I do think that experience did make me slow down my reading this year when I am in big writing months. So I don't know if it necessarily affects the prose. Who knows how much I'll keep of that in the episode. But I think in general, when I'm reading, it's hard for me to turn off my writer brain. So, like, when I look for
Yeah.
books to turn off my writer brain. But if my writer brain is still on, I start to think about my book, like in comparison with this book and, you know, my plot point in comparison with this current plot point. And it feels
Yeah.
more like studying, or then I'll get a whole new idea. And I'm like, Mikayla, you have to write your book. You can't just like get a whole new idea and break the plot structure. So, yeah, I do try to read less when I'm in like a big drafting mode.
It's so hard because I feel like in order to write, like you need a good grasp on story structure. And it's like, I feel like that's not to say like you need to read a lot in order to write well. Like that's not at all what I'm saying. But I think it's more like I like reading, but I find I have a harder time reading now without that critical lens, without that writer lens, and just like enjoying a book as a reader. And I find that really challenging because sometimes I just like can't turn my brain off and just like enjoy a book to enjoy a book. Like it's always in the
Yeah.
context of what I'm working on. And I miss just reading for leisure and enjoying that in and of itself.
Well, and that's why I think I've been craving like a series that can take me out of my writing brain, hi Ollie, and like really get me
It's like every
into
time I
it.
film in this spot, it's like there's a mandatory Ollie
Yes. Mandatory Ollie
cameo.
sighting.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
you want to
it
get
is
into the series.
hard to just, yeah, it's just hard to turn off the writing brain. I don't know, maybe, wow, I'm full of hot takes today.
I
I do
love
feel like
it.
you don't need to be a prolific reader, I should say. Like, I'm a slow reader. I'm not reading
Yeah.
100 books a year. I literally, kudos to people who do that. I have no idea how you guys have the time to do that. That's fantastic. I do think, though, that you should be reading
Yeah.
in order
I
to be
do
a
agree.
writer. Or at least like movies, TV shows, like you need to be consuming. But again, like that's just completely different storytelling from writing altogether, that I feel like you
Yeah.
should be a reader in order to be a writer. But it is just, reading is just such a different ballgame once you start getting into writing, because yeah, it's hard to turn the brain off. So I'm always looking for authors who can make me get out of my writing head and turn my writing brain off.
I know. And I feel like it's really interesting that you say, like consuming media, whether that's TV shows or movies, because I do think that that's true. But I do think inevitably you run into the issue with like television or like visual forms of media where, like part of the strengths of fiction is like the interiority and the fact that you can actually like get into a character's head that you can't necessarily do in the same way in any sort of like visual medium. So like I do think that reading is really important, but I do think like I don't think exactly like you said you have to read 100 books a year. I think you can read 2 books a year, but maybe you've literally torn apart each of those 2 books in a way that you like understand the function and the mechanism behind every single word and sentence in that book
Yeah.
and do like a deep dive. Like that's okay too. I think that there's different ways of reading. You can annotate, like really critically analyze a text. You can read quickly for pleasure, for enjoyment. But yeah, I do think reading is a really important part of like learning to write too.
Yeah, I think that is the key. I mean, even though I'm like, oh, I want to read for leisure and like get completely, turn the writer brain off, but I do still think it's important to always like critically engage with the text that you're reading. So even if you aren't like highlighting everything from like a writer's perspective, I feel like as long as you are like reading something and then you take the time to just reflect on what you just read and like how it made you feel, will do wonders, I feel like, for your writing. Because at the end of the day, like, that's really what we're all trying to do, is like we're trying to execute our vision, like what's in our
Mm,
head. But it's also about, how am I trying to make the reader feel in these moments? Because now when
totally.
I've been interviewing a ton of like, especially like indie authors who are doing rounds and rounds of beta readers, they have talked recently in my interviews about how they're all like, you hold steadfast to your vision and you just make sure that the readers are feeling what you want them to feel at every step of the way. And I do feel like that is also an important part of storytelling that can get lost sometimes behind like the prose and the mechanisms and the craft. But instead, just like even as a reader thinking like, okay, like how did that make me feel? Like, was the romance impactful? Was this payoff at the end worth it to me? Was there an emotional payoff? Did I cry? If a book can make me cry, which isn't hard to do, to be fair, I cry at like commercials. I cry at everything. But
Same,
if a
girl.
book makes me cry, it's an automatic 5-star read for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I love what you said about how authors say like you need to find your vision and stick with the vision. And I think that that's really important. And I think that really ties into like why we say like there's no such thing as like objectively good writing, because like so much is subjective. And I feel like when you look at a piece of work as a writer, as the author of the work, like there's going to be people who don't jive with it. That's just like an inevitable part of the process. But I feel like that's the fact that like if you have a vision for the story, like even to like a sub scene level where you're hitting the vision that you have for the story and you feel like the vision in your head aligns with what you have written on the page, I feel like that is the hallmark of like you've done a good job. Like whether or not people jive with it, people like it, like if your readers like see the vision, like that I think really is a hallmark of a good story, because it's like I can read a book and not jive with it, but like I can see the vision that the author has and they executed it according to that vision, and maybe that doesn't like align with what I like to read, but like if you execute to your vision, like I think that that's as good of a job as you can ever do as a writer.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like the craft stuff is important. Like you and I care so much about our prose and our interiority and tension, and we talk so much about that stuff, but just making sure that the readers are seeing your intention or feeling the way you want them to feel is, I don't know, maybe the most important. But it's also like, how do you do that? I don't know. I think you just have to make good characters, or not even good characters, just I think characters that the reader understands. Like they have to understand every decision.
Yeah, I think like having the internal logic for a character for why they're making the decisions that they're making or why they're reacting in the way that they're reacting. But I also think it's like that's what beta reading is for, and like alpha reading, or you know, those iterations through a draft and like getting other people's input, because you can be so close to a draft. It's like I don't think also like you're going to execute that vision necessarily in like the first round of beta reading. Like that is kind of like what that's for, is like, okay, how is this person and their brain interpreting this scene? And like why were they led in that direction? And like, how can I then tweak it in order to align with my vision like more properly? Like I was beta reading for somebody and it was so good, but like some of what was done in act 1 had led me to believe that like the mission that this main character was going to do in act 2 was slightly different, just because like a lot of the motivation and just like the character building that had been done in like the first act like led me someplace like a little bit like slightly different than the author had intended. And so like some of it can be like really subconscious things like that, where you're like building certain things about a character that then make like later scenes not hit or like not lead you to the proper conclusion or whatever it is. And it's like all of this fine tuning with like iterative rounds and like talking to your beta readers and trying to figure out why they were led in that direction versus another. I think there's so many reasons why I feel like you can be led into different directions. And I think that's also in part because like our brains as humans, like we're really good at picking up clues, and like some of those clues can be subconscious. And sometimes we can like write those clues into the text without even realizing it, and then like leading a reader in a certain direction when you actually meant to go in a different direction.
That's a really good point. Okay, what are you reading?
Yeah, I totally forgot though.
Yeah.
Look what I got.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He came in the mail.
Cute.
This is my little desk gnome that I'm going to have on my desk for writing. He's so cute. Let me know what we should name him. This is going to be the Craft and Crashouts gnome, and I need a name. I think his beard glows in the dark. Yeah.
Shut up.
No, it's not.
Oh my, Wait,
Wait,
no,
can
but
you
I
see it?
kind of see what you're
Okay,
talking
hold on.
about.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Can
No,
you
that's
see?
yes, that's crazy. That's crazy. Oh
Well,
my
name
god.
it. What am I reading this week? I am still working real slow through. Why am I reading like 15 books? I'm reading Gideon the Ninth, Project Hail Mary, Our Share of Beat. But I started reading. I started getting these like kind of like literary magazines. And so one of them is the Paris Review, and I got the fall 2025 edition. And so I've just been kind of like working my way through it. And it's really interesting because you have like short stories, poetry, art, and it's like a really just fun like read because it's all of these different authors, all of these different forms of art that you can just kind of like read through in like a nice little packet. And so that's actually been really fun. And I'm trying to read this because I'm pretty sure the winter edition is coming in the mail. So I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even read the fall one yet. So I need to read this. But that's been really fun. And it's just like really interesting to like hop into different authors and works. And so that's kind of what I've been, in addition to the 5 million books that I'm reading right now.
Well, speaking of like ways to up your craft for reading, short stories are an underrated tool for writers. Because in undergrad, like I studied creative writing, and it's interesting because if you do creative writing in undergrad, you are studying and writing short stories. You're not working on any long project. Unless, I mean, some people will do like maybe a capstone project as like a novella potentially. But most of the time you're writing short stories, essays, etc. And then when you do a master's in creative writing, that's where they will usually do longer projects and do like novel intensives. And when, doing undergrad, it doesn't always prepare you for the trials and tribulations that a novel has, because that's way different than a short story. But what a short story can do for novel writers in terms of like clear writing, concise writing is so much. I hate writing short stories. I'm not great at it. No, I'm not good at it. And I think it is such a good way to study character and tone and tension, because someone might only do that in a page versus 500 pages, which is crazy. And you can learn, like, you could have a short story that's a couple paragraphs and you get everything you need out of this character into 3 sentences. And it's like studying that type of stuff is so helpful. So maybe that's a good alternative too. Like if you don't want to always put your writer hat on when you're reading story, still think you should sometimes. But a great way to do it in small bites is to get literary magazines. I'm a big proponent of literary magazines. Most likely everybody has some sort of local literary magazine. If not, the nearest like big city to you will have some sort of literary magazine that you can get in on for a local level. But yeah, there's a lot of national and global literary magazines, independently run and otherwise, that are really amazing. The Paris Review is like a really well-known one.
Yeah. And it's been really great. And I'm also seconding everything you said. I think that's such a good point. I always think about, I listened to a podcast where Alex E. Harrow was speaking, and she was basically like, before I started writing a book, like I just started writing short stories because I really wanted to like get the craft down. And then she was kind of making the joke that her agent told her not to tell anybody the story, but like by just publishing her short stories, like she got signed by an agent because they were like that good. And like she hadn't even written a book yet. But I think it's a really excellent way to practice craft. I like a short story. I find it a lot harder to have a concrete vision for a short story than I do a book, because there's just like so much less space and like word count. And I feel like you need to have like a really tight idea for a short story. And I find that really challenging.
I agree. That's where I struggle with short stories. Like doing so many creative writing classes in undergrad where you had to write a short story in like a week and then you bring it to your next week's class and we all critique each other's work was so harrowing, not for the writing, but I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to create a story arc or a character arc in 2 pages and have it be impactful and have the payoff still there. So that's also like a great way to look at short story, because like there's like a full story arc or a full character arc payoff, reward, like all within a short amount of time. But I think it's probably wise because when I get my story ideas, it comes in vibes, man. It is vibes, vibes, vibes. It takes me a long time to figure out what the actual story is. And I just like, I think if you are a short story writer, it's because you have like clear, concrete visions coming to you. And that is not me. That is not me.
Same. Yeah. I always am like, oh, like I feel like actually I write short stories of my characters if I'm having a hard time getting into them, but they're like short stories of a subsection or like a backstory of a character from like the novel idea. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's hard. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm kind of like, I'm always torn because I always want to do all the things, but I also know we only have so much time, energy, and attention. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should write more short stories in 2026. I'm like, girl, just like try to finish the dang book. Like, don't add more on your plate. You know what I mean?
No, that is so true. That is so true. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I know a lot of writers who write really amazing short stories. I'm like, more power to you guys. More power to you guys.
So, no pressure. But what have you been working on this week?
Yeah, I was just telling Ari before we started recording, I was like, I don't really know what to say. I have just been, plowing through my like December to-do list. So I'm trying not to focus on word count. I think I talked about this previously. Like I have a hidden word count from me.
Yeah.
I'm like a kid who can't know where the candy jar is. I have no idea where I am. I don't know if I'm underwriting. I don't know if I'm overwriting. I don't know what's going on, But I know this, like the bare bones of every scene that needs to happen right now towards the end where it's like 2 words or a sentence. Don't know what really is going to all happen in every scene, but I know like, the overarching brushstroke of every scene. So I've like broken all of that down in like my to-do list. So I'm just working through them. I was working on a scene, was it yesterday morning, that I messaged you guys about that I am liking. It's a lot of, I sent a snippet to Ari and some friends. Yeah, there's a lot of more like actiony scenes happening. And since a lot of my scenes already have been we talked about this in a previous episode of like, it feels like I'm blocking out the scenes of this person is over here while that person's over there. And this is what they're both doing. And then they talk maybe 4 sentences and then they go out their day. So a lot of my scenes have been more bare bones, like blocking, it feels like. I'm doing that with the action scenes, but I am still trying to make sure that like, I don't know, everything makes sense. I have a hard time keeping in my head where everything is going and what everyone is doing. And like a big fight scene basically is what this snippet was from. They're getting attacked by these scary hound beasts. And there's only so many things I can say. Like I cannot tell you how many times I wrote this down and had to cancel out all the time. I said like maws, like the giant maws, like a mouth, They're gaping maws, they're giant teeth. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so much harder than I thought. I was like flagging things yesterday. Like, okay, obviously all of this is going to get rewritten, but like, holy cow, we got to figure out how to do this. I think I told you guys yesterday, I was like, the amount of times, not just in my action scenes, throughout the whole book, the weirdest word ever, that I say throat is crazy. And I've only started realizing that, and I control F'd throat for my whole. I don't even remember. And honestly, I don't want to look at it again. It was so jarring because I only realized it because like in the last 3 days, I always have the dictionary up because we're writers. We're always looking at synonyms. At least I'm like every 2 sentences, I'm looking up a synonym for something I'm saying. And the amount of times I was like, I can only say throat so many ways. Why am I constantly talking about people's throats? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like though, like that with the vibes of your story, I don't know, like it just makes sense to me. Like
that's good.
Do you know what I mean? like no, like really, I feel like because you're going for such like, it's not horror, and it's not like body horror necessarily, but there's something like visceral about like
Yeah.
your action and your story and the vibes you're trying to cultivate. Like the throat is a very tender and delicate
Yeah.
part and of the human body. And I feel like the fact that you're highlighting such a vulnerable spot on a human body actually like goes very well with the vibes of your story.
That's true.
Not to say that it's not a crutch word,
It
but
so is.
it makes sense to me.
Which, like, throat being a crutch word is, like, the weirdest thing. I never thought that would be a crutch word for this draft. But see, I like your positive spin and your philosophical spin on it.
Thanks.
That makes sense. But I think, too, in these, like, fight scenes with these, like, scary beast hound guys, a lot, I was talking to you guys, coming up with words of describing how I'm hearing them in my head. There's so much, like, guttural growling from the back of their throat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Gargling. And yeah, I was telling you guys also maybe like last week that so these hounds, they can't see, but they use like echolocation and they can like hear and they can sense you. And
That's
so
neat.
I imagine them sounding like, is it alien or predator?
Like bats use
Whichever
echolocation
one.
too.
Predator. Is it predator? Yeah. Predator. Let me see. Let me look this up again. And then I'll plug the scary sound
I do
into
love
this.
the movie Alien.
It is. It's predator. It's not alien.
It's predator.
Yeah. And so I imagine these beasts having a predator-esque sound. It's a lot of like clicking. And I don't know how to say that other than clicking noises, which like when you say clicking, that doesn't sound scary. Also, like this book is set in modern day.
Yeah.
But I can't have someone say they sound like predator. That would be weird. Yeah. I was trying like all these crazy ways to say clicking. And then now I've just been typing like clicking in all caps as like a key to be like, Mikayla, you got to figure this out of like how to describe this other than clicking. Cause like, yeah, the word clicking doesn't sound scary until you hear what I'm thinking in my head for like predator.
Yeah.
And that's where then you talk about the guttural things in the back of their throat. Cause it's like their throat is like clicking. It's gross. Yeah. It's weird. I hate it. It's scary. But I have no idea.
I love it. Oh my God. I'm so excited to read that. No, it makes total sense. And actually, like when you had initially told me that it was clicking, I like The Last of Us is now a TV show, but it originally was a video game. And my husband was like, you got to play this game. Like, it's incredible. And so I started playing and the zombies click. And the second you said that your hounds click, I was like, The Last of Us, like The Last of Us. And actually, I had to stop playing that game like halfway through because I swear it was giving me blood pressure problems because it was so scary. Like my hands would be clammy and like I would be shaking. Like it was terrifying.
I want to play it so bad, but I'm a scaredy cat.
I feel like honestly just play like an hour of it just so you can like feel the vibes from the zombies and then like write it in your book. You know what I mean? But so when you said clicking, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you're gonna figure out ways to like creatively say it. It's just right now it's the first draft. Like you're not worrying about your line level. You're not worrying about how to be creative and like say it in non-repetitive ways. Like just say clicking, you will figure that out later.
It's just like cracking me up because it's just like if you look at these scenes, it's like clicking, 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 clicking. Because like what's happening is like they're in the woods. And so they're all, when they're getting like surrounded, they all stay quiet and try to like gather their resources and get ready. But then once the hounds like I think it's scary. Don't know if it comes across as scary in the book yet, but when the hounds then stop and they like open their mouth to like what you'd think would be like a wolf howl, but they do the like clicking thing. It's like because they're trying to figure out where these people are, like using like echolocation basically. When the clicking happens, you know you have to like start attacking because they know where you are. When they start clicking, they know where you are. So that's why like the clicking is happening all the time. So yeah, that's just chills. Like a funny thing.
I have chills. No, like really, like it's so spooky, but like in the best way. And like, I feel like the clicking, I feel like in a visual or auditory media, like that is really easy to do. And it is harder to switch it to prose. But at the same time, like even you describing that scene, there's just like so much tension with the fact that there's like an auditory cue that they know as characters, like they need to act and they need to act fast or else like they're dead, you know?
Yeah, crazy. So I've been doing a lot of, I don't know, fight scenes with clicking noises and again, a lot of blocking of like these last, like more like climactic scenes, just trying to power through to the end. But I've been having a funny time seeing how many times I use the word throat and click, 2 words I never thought I'd be saying a lot in this book.
Again, makes total sense to me.
Total sense. What about you? What have you been working on?
So, I don't remember what my last update was. I've had a crazy writing week, actually.
Crazy.
We're moving, we're shaking. I think I've written like close to 27,000 words this month, which is like absolutely nuts. Intentional, because I feel like I started December actually like with a major, major block of like trying to figure out why the first half of Act 2A like wasn't working. And so what I had done is I rewrote the first half of Act 2A and I got it into a space where I was like, I'm happy with this. And let me tell you, that what I said a couple episodes ago, where it's like every single time it's 20,000 words to 30,000 words, we're breezing again. We got over the hump. We figured it out. And now I'm just like really fast drafting the second half of Act 2A. I don't think a lot of it is going to stay, but I think what I realized is with this draft, what's really helping me is like breezing through a sequence. And a sequence is basically just like half an act. Like that's how I've kind of chunked it out. Like breezing through a sequence, reverse outlining it, going back, like restructuring it in a way that like flows better and makes more sense for the character arc and the relationship dynamics, and then like rewriting it. So it's really not the most efficient process, but I honestly don't even care because it's like giving me such a joy. It's like it feels like I'm zero drafting.
Yeah.
Like it feels like I'm zero drafting like 10 to 15,000 words at a time, which like isn't that much, but so I get the joy of the zero drafting, but then I get like the joy of like going back in and editing it and like actually making it so that when I go through and reread the draft, it's like more cohesive and understandable than a zero draft. So I think like 3 scenes away from the midpoint. I'm almost at 50K for the manuscript. So it's been a really good writing week and I'm like so, so happy about it. But I also know that good writing weeks are like really fleeting. And so like, I'm really just trying to like hold on to it and enjoy it while I can, because I'm sure by next week I'm going to be like, I'm stuck again, you know? So, but it's been really fun so far.
No, when you showed how much you wrote this month, I was like, oh my God.
Crazy.
That's incredible. And especially because
Crazy.
you weren't, like you said, like you didn't have a word count goal that you were trying to hit, which I think sometimes then can speak to how not always putting a word count goal on you can be beneficial. Like you just kind of found your groove. You got over that 20 to 30,000 hump that you know. So I think it goes to show again, like what we've been talking about, like knowing your process and knowing who you are as a writer is so important, because now it's off to the races. And hopefully you can ride those coattails as long as possible.
I also feel like I love this is like so hypocritical, which is like so funny to me. I hate thinking about word count except in retrospect when it has gone well. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. 100%. That's when you want to give yourself a pat on the back.
Yes. Like when I'm actually in it, it's like, I feel like for me, for a day, like the dream is like writing 2,000 words a day. 99% of the time, like that's actually not happening. And usually it's like easy to get the first 500 words, absolute torture to get the next 1,000 words. And then it's fine. It's like, you're just doing your best at the last 500. Like I've noticed that that's kind of like the pattern that I have. Like when I am trying to hit that 2,000 words a day mark, but it's also like, I feel like you can get into such a like mental block and it's like so psychological of like, I have to hit 2,000 words a day. And like, I know I'm not writing my best. I know it's going to cause me so much more work down the line. Like I would so much rather go slow and write like 200 to maybe 1,000 words a day. Like that, I feel like the quality is a little bit better, but there is something really fun about zero drafting and just like seeing the word count increase, but it's like you have to play this like very specific mental game with yourself of like not actually caring that much about the word count so that you can like look back and be like, oh, yay, like look. But like when you're actually in it, I think it can be really detrimental to just be like, gotta hit those word counts. Yeah, it's really tricky.
No, I resonate with that so much. I think we talked about how like I've been having to trick my brain this draft because I'm pantsing to me. I'm not full on pantsing. I know where I'm going. Again, like I have like brush strokes for each chapter. But even I was saying yesterday, like the scene I wrote yesterday is from someone else's POV, from my main male character's POV. And then the next scene in the same chapter is from Helen, my actual main character. So I'm like, yeah, that's not going to fly in the final draft or even in the second draft. But right now, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I'm getting thrown down the river. Like I'm just following the river where it leads. And I think what I'm starting to realize, if we're going into like what we've been learning, is that in previous manuscripts or projects or drafts, I think the reason why I can't hit the end is, I've said it before, like I do too much to where I feel like I've already written the book. I've already done all the hard work. And so the writing part feels horrible because I'm like, no, I've already done all this. And so now I'm starting to realize that it's so messy that I'm actually going to have so much fun editing. Editing Mikayla is going to be a whole new person. That is my favorite part.
That take. Yeah.
Because I'm like, I was writing a scene and we're like near the end of the book. And I was starting to realize, I was like, we don't have a lot of side characters, almost at all. So many of them have like filler names. I don't even know what they look like. And I'm like, Helen's supposed to be falling in love with this like group of people. You don't even know who this group of people are. And so I like made a note like, hey, we got to figure this out. But old me would have realized that, stopped writing, and worked for like 3 weeks on all those side characters. And then getting back into writing would have taken forever. So it's like now I just, especially this month, I'm just getting better at like, okay, we made a note. We did my little like journal ranting about it. Like I realized that my cast of characters is like very sparse, but that is going to be for like the second draft where I feel like before I jump back into draft 2, once I finish draft 1, it's going to be a lot of maybe what I'm realizing people do at like the beginning of draft 1 for them. A lot of like brainstorming, a lot of like really fleshing out characters, really fleshing out plot beats before I go back into draft 2. Because now, like, I mean, draft 1 is a hot mess. When you showed that meme a couple weeks ago of that horse, nothing has ever rang truer in my life than these last scenes being a stick figure. They are stick figures and it's going to be rough. But yeah, I think for me, in my brain, it's like, okay, I have to kind of like zero draft, fast draft, a first draft, and just like have fun with each scene and not really know what's going to happen and play like the improv game of like, I've been doing a lot of like yes anding what's been happening in scenes and it's been working, which is weird and crazy. And then for draft 2, it's going to be a lot more like, okay, let's actually figure out like character motivation, which maybe people figure out before they write draft 1. But for me, I've just realized like that can't happen, or then I won't write the book for some reason because in my books, I don't know, my brain's weird.
I feel like character motivations don't come in for quite a while for like a lot of people, if that helps at all. But also, like that is growth. Like
I know, growth.
We're clapping it up for Mick. Like, no, truly, like whatever you're doing is working. Whether it's the brain dumping that you're doing, like post writing the scene, like you are finishing the draft. Like you're doing the hard work of just like draft 1. All it has to do is exist. Like you're going to figure out those side characters later. You're going to figure out the motivation later. You're going to figure out all that stuff later. Like the fact that you said that, like, Mick from 2 years ago would have stopped and taken like 3 weeks to figure this out. Like that is such growth. And you need to give yourself a pat on the back because that's amazing. You're doing it. You're doing the hard thing.
Yeah, I definitely think that this year has been like a grueling process of not trying to make other people's process fit for me.
Yeah. 100%.
And I do think a lot of it has been like, I haven't been posting like writing vlogs on YouTube or doing the instructional videos of like, here's me outlining my book, because I've just realized like that doesn't work for me. Like for years, I have been watching other like like I've been watching AuthorTube forever, and I've always looked up to other authors, and I'm so in love with other people's process. But I think what I was doing was like, I'm listening to other people's process and then I'm trying to actually implement it. I was like trying to find like the magic solution, which I think a lot of newer writers do. Like, what's the magic solution to writing my book? Like, oh, okay, this person wrote their book really fast. This was their process. Let's try it. And I would just like try on a ton of people's processes and never finish a book because it wasn't working for me. And I thought I was such a planner. And now I'm like, no, Mikayla, we're in pantsing territory now. Yes, we are.
Welcome to the dark side.
We're on the dark side, and I'm liking it a lot better. So, yeah, I think this year has been a lot of like, okay, we've tried so many different outlines. We've tried so many different story structures. We've tried so many different like weekly writing routines and how to build a character and like so many things that I've looked at. And I'm realizing like, okay, maybe a lot of that for me personally comes in draft 2. And draft 1, I have to be able to just hit the end with something that's kind of like my vision. And I do really think the brain dumping for me has helped to get out all those anxieties of like, okay, I know this scene does not fit up to par with what I want it to be. So let's talk about it like a therapy session with myself and then move on. So,
yeah. And I think whatever you're doing is absolutely working. And I think that is so amazing because you're figuring out your process and it's becoming like internally motivated. And I think it's so easy, especially when you're first starting out, to, you know, get examples of people who have been successful and what they've done and how they've thought about things. But sometimes the way that other people think about things, like they just don't necessarily click. Like I remember I was teaching coding in grad school and I had a bunch of like undergrads and there was like one student who was really struggling and, you know, we like had sat down, like had a session and she was just like, I just don't think I think about things the way that most other people do. And I was just like, you know what? That's fine. That means that we just need to find the way that you think about it and make it work. Like think about all like, and I love doing a coding to makeup analogy because not enough women know how to code. And it's just like, think about how you do your makeup. Like, do you do your makeup the same way your friend does their makeup? Do you do it in the same order? Do you do the same like blush placement? Do you do the same whatever? And she's like, my God, no, like, you're so right. Like, I don't think about it like that, but like, it's so personalized and it's so like, how your brain works and how your brain functions and how you can wrap your mind around concepts that doesn't necessarily work for other people. And I feel like we've talked about this another time too, whereas like, I wish my process was like a certain way. Like, I wish that it wasn't as chaotic as it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to like embrace the way that your brain works and the way that you process, because like the only thing that has to happen is like, it has to get done. Like that's just like, you just want to cross the finish line and you need to figure out whatever way you can make that happen. And it's so individual for every single person. And I'm just like so proud of you because you're figuring it out.
No, I think that's a really great analogy. Because no, I don't think a lot of people do makeup the same way. Or again, there are like tutorials on how to online, and you could have like a different face shape, like you were saying, blush placement than someone else. And so I could put my blush where they want me to. And I'm like, well, now I look ridiculous. And that looks stupid on me. So I'm going to take this off and do blush the way I've always done it. And so that's actually a great analogy because even though it's funny, like I'm not a makeup girly. I wish I was. I really wish I was. I have no idea what to do, but I think it does make sense for like skincare, makeup, anything like that, where you could get advice or direction on maybe like a product, but not necessarily is it all going to work for you. Because like I have very sensitive skin. Like I can try out different people's skin products, but honestly for me, it's like just one face wash and that's about it because my face is so sensitive. And so same thing for
and maybe
writing.
what somebody else recommends is going to make you break out. You know, like maybe the advice of like, you have to write 2,000 words a day, you have to write every single day, is going to make you psychologically break out. Just a thought.
So it's so true. I think, and I've been consuming like a lot of podcasts or like artist media lately that, well, I think too, it's just like it's the end of the year. Like we're winding down to the end of the year. And I think a lot of people talk about like goal setting and not rushing to your goal. Cause then once you finish the goal, like you're never happier because the whole point is the process. And we've talked about
Yeah.
this a lot, but I think it is a good reminder that like not only should you really find out what process works for you, you need to make it enjoyable. We love to joke. Like I know Ari and I are in a Discord with our friends and we love to joke about before we sit down to write, we're like, no, we hate it. And like half of it's a joke. Half of it
Yeah.
might be a little true. But like when we're actually writing and you're in the process, it should be fun. So if you see someone doing Save the Cat and then you do Save the Cat and you don't find it fun, I think we've talked previously how like if something starts to feel like work, not work in like I'm going to put work into something and get an amazing payoff and feel good about progress work. I mean like desk job work, like busy work, like drone work, work that makes you like go crazy. Don't do it. Like literally don't do it. Find something else, even if it feels crazy and weird and you're not seeing anyone else on the internet talk about this. That's fine. Just do whatever works for you. Yeah.
Enough said. I have nothing to add to that. That was perfect.
Perfection.
We can end it there. Perfect. No, but yeah, absolutely. Like, and there's also such a particular, like, there are so many writers and there's so many authors out there, and there are only a very select few who share their process or like know how to verbalize what their process is. Like, I think it's one thing to know your process, and I think it's another thing to be able to like discuss it and show it, and to be able to understand how like the very beginning stages of a project like really differ from the late stages of a project. And I was actually just thinking about this because I was watching Joy's world building video, which was so good. Everybody should check it out. But like I was thinking about how I world build, and I was like, you know, if I answered this question now, it would sound really different from if I answered this question like a draft and a half ago. Right. And because it is so iterative, you like retroactively change how you think you did it. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I think we've said this before also, is like how something works for me now is not necessarily going to be how it worked for me in the past or how it's going to work for me in the future. And so it's like this constant process of changing, as well as like figuring out what works for you and how you know your brain functions and how your process works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know what I learned from reading or writing this week. I feel like that was like a really, I loved that discussion. That just made me so happy. I feel like kind of in a similar vein though, it was like really about like finding the joy in the writing again, and like knowing what part of the process like brings me the most fun. And like the part of the process that brings me the most fun is like when I can put an ambiance video on the television and sit on my couch and just like write for several hours, and like write without worry of like, who is going to read this? Is this going to be good? I'm writing purely because I'm like, this is entertaining for me. Like, this is fun for me. This is entertaining to like think about how these characters are like living their lives in this world and like coming across conflict, and like, ooh, this is hilarious. Like, let's put this in there. Like, it's just been like fun for me. And I feel like that is what I'm always craving in the process, is like that unencumbered joy of not worrying about anybody reading it and not worried about what anybody's going to think about it. And if it's not sophisticated enough, and if it's not like well thought out enough. And it's just like, sometimes you just need to write for like your own little brain on the couch because you think it's fun, and like not worry about anybody else. And it's so much easier said than done. Like, I know this, but sometimes like those weeks where you can just like lock in like that, like that's what I live for.
Yeah.
Like those are the days that I live for when it comes to writing, because it's just for me.
What's funny is it kind of comes full circle to what we were talking about earlier, we're like, sometimes when we read, we want to put the writer away and get fully immersed in a story. And it's almost like sometimes when we write, I want to put the writer away and become fully immersed in my story. Like you're saying, like, I want to giggle and kick my feet when my characters are talking to each other. I want to, like, you know, feel like on the edge of my seat when there's like high tension and high stakes. Like, yeah, there's definitely a beauty when you can get into that flow state where the writer can also kind of take a back seat. Like, okay, professor, go sit back there. We're not worried about craft right now. We are truly just like immersed in our story.
Yeah.
There's something like really beautiful about that.
I know. And I'm actually going to shout out Ian Henderson because he shared something in the Storyteller Discord a while back, and it really affected me and changed how I thought about writing. Do you mind if I read it? Okay, here it is. Okay. So he said he was reading a newsletter, and this is like a direct quote from the newsletter. And I'm sorry, I actually don't know what newsletter it's from. So Ian, if you can like comment if you're watching this and just maybe give us the reference. Okay. What's been the toughest moment in your publishing journey and how did you get through it? So I think it's an author who's being interviewed. My toughest moment was when it appeared that my second novel would not find a home with a publisher. My novel had also gone unpublished. My first novel had also gone unpublished, but I was okay with that for some reason. But my second novel was very close to my heart. I'd spent 3 years stealing time away from my job and my family to work on it, and I believed it had something important to say. So I was devastated when it didn't sell and thought about giving up writing. After all, I was spending a lot of time and energy on a hobby that obviously wasn't going anywhere. My self-esteem was getting low, and I worried that my kids would think their mother was crazy because she spent so much time pecking at her keyboard with nothing to show for it. Around this time, I spent an afternoon with a friend who had a beautiful garden in her backyard. Truly, it was gorgeous. She had even built a short retaining wall with big rocks that she had dug up from a riverbank and loaded into the back of her car. She was proud of what she'd done, and I respected her hard work and skill. As I was walking home that afternoon, it occurred to me that no one could see her garden but her family and the friends who visited her, like me. A new thought came to me. I remember it exactly. If she can have a garden, why can't I have a novel? I never looked back after that. My writing would be my garden, and if the only people who ever read it were the 3 women in my writing group, that would be enough. And
That's so nice.
I know. I loved it because I was like, I think you kind of always stray away from your why sometimes. Like, I feel like writing is often a process of like coming back to your why, coming away from your why, like ricocheting back again. Like, sometimes I really do think like, oh, like, do I want to give this up? Like, is this going to go anywhere? Why am I working so hard and spending so much time doing it? And I was like, writing is my garden. Writing is my little vegetable garden in my backyard that I'm going to like toil away and like work on it because it just like, it brings me joy, even if like nobody else is ever going to see it. And I just like think about that little story all the time. And I'm like, and I feel like it's like clicked for me this week where it's like, okay, like this is just for me. And like, that's okay. And I find I have the most fun with writing when I come at it from that perspective of like, this is like just for me, which I also feel like is part of the reason why I like took a step back from YouTube, is because it's like, then it became not just for me too.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of, I think, a big thing that I've like learned this week. And I'm kind of just like leaning into it of like, let's just make this for me. Let's just like have fun with it because it's just for me right now.
Yeah. No, that's really beautiful. And I think that's a good point of, I like that she was like, even if it's just me and my 3 writing friends, because I'm like, so true. I think if I wrote a book and it went nowhere, I'd be like, all my writing friends, you're getting a book in the mail. It is mine. Yes. I hope you enjoy it. But it is so true. Like, even if, because this author, which we'll have to figure out what this newsletter was from, said that the second book of hers really had something to say and it was very personal. I think even when I think the best books are that, like when it's pulling from personal experience and you're trying to work through something and like hit a theme for the reader, but that can also just be helpful for you. This book that I'm currently working on also is like pretty personal. Like, yeah, there's hounds and there's like horror elements and magic, but like at the depth of it, these characters are pretty personal. So I think even if it never sees the light of day, it's like it helps me work through parts of me, because that's kind of what our characters are. They're all mini little parts of us, whether authors want to say they are or not. They're parts of
100%.
us or parts of people we know or, iterations of people we've met. And that in itself, I think, is just really cool. I don't know. Storytelling to me is just so innately human. It's just a very cool thing that we all get to partake in. Yeah, I love thinking about my book being a little garden. I almost started crying. See, it's not that hard to make me cry.
Yay.
I cried a lot, but that was so cute. I loved it. Thank you, Ian, for sharing that. And hopefully we'll figure out who that newsletter is from because I want to subscribe to it because it sounds fantastic.
I know. So good. I've just been thinking about that because I think he shared it like months ago and I like still think about it. So it just like really stuck with me. Yeah. Do we want to switch over to our little voice note?
Yeah, let's do our voice note, which I know this one is actually off topic to what we've been talking about today. But I'm excited for it.
I'm so excited. I think it's going to be comic relief.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is from Megan on Instagram at the Neurocuriosity Club. And she's like our first listener voice note. And we got this and I got so excited. So thank you so much for submitting this. And also if anybody would like to submit any voice notes in the future and be on the pod, please just DM us on Instagram with your voice note. Okay. So let's listen to said voice note.
Hey, Mick and Ari, I come to you with a truly embarrassing writing crash out that I could use all of the advice on. Oh my gosh. So I wrote my very first sex scene in my latest work in progress called Project Star Stuff, where the astrological signs wake up on Earth and they have to find their way back to the astral plane. One of them falls in love. There's a sex scene. It's really explicit and I wrote it and I am like so embarrassed. Like I was raised Catholic. Okay. I don't know if you guys were raised Catholic, but we don't talk about sex. Okay. And we definitely don't talk about what we like in sex and all of that stuff. And there's this huge part of me that's like, I'm writing this. So the readers are going to think this is what I like sexually. And like, that's embarrassing. Also, the romance in my book is sapphic, which is like the characters were given to me from like the inspiration gods and they just happen to be lesbians, but I am not. And so I'm like terrified I'm doing it wrong and like writing it wrong and all of this stuff. And so, yeah, just a classic religious trauma, worrying that I'm misrepresenting the LGBTQ plus community crash out. So any advice that you've got would be amazing. Also, hi, my name is Megan Griffith. I'm over on YouTube at Megan Griffith Author. And yeah, so this is my crash out. I would love your advice on the podcast. Loved the first episode. It was fantastic. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Oh my God.
Love this voice note so much.
I'm obsessed with it. What a valid crash out, Megan.
Such a valid crash out. Everybody go follow Megan.
Right yeah.
Yeah. Such a valid crash out. Honestly, like also just the cringe of writing a sex scene sometimes, like it's so hard. It's so hard. Okay. So I feel like my first instinct to answer this is I feel like number one, when it comes to like the queer community, like absolutely you need sensitivity readers. Yeah. That's like my first instinct, especially if you are not from the community with which you are writing about, like definitely getting sensitivity readers, getting beta readers who are from those backgrounds, who have those lived experiences to speak to that scene. I feel like 100%. But also like, I feel like that is part of the challenge of like putting your art out there a lot of the times is like, even if it's not necessarily like a self-insert character, like there's like still a little bit of that like anxiety of like you're putting a little bit of your brain on a page for other people to like look at and read and judge almost. But also like when I go into a book and I'm like reading a spicier scene, like I am not thinking about the author.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean? Like
weird.
Yeah, like I'm thinking like these characters, like yes, let's go. Yeah. Right. And so I feel like that's like a totally valid crash out. And I'm going to be here and I'm going to validate that crash out.
Valid.
But I think probably your readers are going to be like, yes, please give us more, if anything.
Agreed. Yeah, 100% agree. Also raised Catholic. So I understand the we don't talk about sex here mentality and like the probably full on like screaming crash out you had like after you hit the period at the end of that scene, and you probably were like, what did I just do? I probably would have had the same exact crash out. But first, I just want to applaud you, because as someone then who grew up Catholic, not talking about sex a lot, it is brave. Like, I understand the kind of fear of like, oh my God, I'm putting a little bit potentially of myself on the page, but also like, good for you. You're stepping outside of maybe a comfort bubble that you hadn't stepped outside of before in writing, which is really exciting. And a completely valid crash out. I think you'd be having the exact same crash out. But it sounds like you know what you're doing. You have a vision for the scene. And I think, to echo what Ari said in terms of making sure, definitely having a sensitivity read. Also, kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, reading some sapphic books where there are explicit sex scenes as well, to kind of study what other authors have done and to make sure that it could line up with your vision is also a good way, but definitely getting a sensitivity reader. But I say go forth and prosper. Go forth and write those sex scenes and have fun with it. And I think the more you do it, the more I think that like embarrassment layer that I think anyone kind of feels if they've grown up in some sort of family environment or cultural or community environment where like sex is shamed and you're not supposed to be talking about it, it'll start to chip away. Like the more you do it, the more it will chip away. And I think it's awesome that you wrote that. I'm proud of you. And the crash outs are valid, but you can do this. I believe in you.
Yeah. Oh, that was so perfectly said, Mick. I love that. Yeah. And I feel like absolutely, I think you said that this was like your first sex scene that you wrote too, that like you're gonna be publishing. So like 100%, if it's like the first one, like this is you ripping the Band-Aid off. Like, yeah, like that's tough. And so 100%, I would be crashing out too. But at the same time, like I'm sure it's amazing. I want to read it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Send it our way.
Send it our way. Yeah, please. And yeah, and I think exactly like what Mick said, like, it's gonna get easier over time for sure. And also, yeah, see what your beta readers say, see what your sensitivity readers say. And also kudos to you. You're doing something really challenging by challenging the norms that you were raised with. And that's like really challenging. And also maybe it'll be really validating and liberating for a lot of people who had a similar upbringing.
Yeah.
Or like even somebody who is listening to this and is like, oh gosh, like I'm scared that I won't be able to do this. And then like maybe they wrote it and they're having similar anxieties, and like being able to hear that somebody who's done it, they can follow in their shoes, you know what I mean? And be like, it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's anxiety inducing. But at the end of the day, you're being responsible by getting the sensitivity readers. You're doing what your artistic compass is telling you to do. You know what I mean? And I think that that's also really important. And you're listening to that, even if you've had life experiences that told you that maybe that wasn't okay to do. And so we're giving you a pat on the back. We're applauding you.
Yes.
We're proud of you.
Now that was beautifully said, Ari.
Me?
You.
Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. Really, sometimes I'm just like, I feel like I stumble over my words, but that is neither here nor there.
You are so articulate all the time with everything. Yes.
That's how I feel about you.
That's how I feel about you. I'm always in awe with everything. I'm like, everything Ari says is gold. Good advice.
That's how I feel about Mick.
Golden words. That's why we're co-hosts.
The best co-hosts in the game. Also with Gnome.
With Gnome. Yeah, we need to name our Gnome.
Co-hosts yeah, we need to name our Gnome.
So give us help with Gnome names.
Yeah, but thank you so much for submitting this voice note.
Thank you.
Really, the first time we listened to it, I was like, this is giving me life.
Yes.
And also
we were very excited for this.
We were so excited. And also just like somebody like would listen and be like, I'm okay being vulnerable enough to like put myself out there to like tell you what my crash out is and to like get it. Like that meant a lot. And thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Okay, what a fun episode.
What a fun episode. Remember when you were like, I have nothing to talk about? It's been an hour and a half.
No, literally. I mean, we could probably do this forever, though. I can just yap and yap and yap and yap and yap.
I know. And I always feel like I come out of our conversations too, just like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm ready to tackle the day. I'm ready to tackle the creative endeavor. And that is a gift.
It is. Like right now, it's like early afternoon, and I'm probably going to go get my butt out of the house and go write.
Me too.
Inspired.
I think I'm going to go to a coffee shop.
Oh, see, I was like, for the first time in a long time, I'm like, maybe I go to the library. Quiet.
Ooh, I love that idea.
Like true silence. I think it's because I need a whiteboard right now. I think I need like a library room with like a giant whiteboard.
I support this for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Okay. Thank
you so much for listening, everybody.
We like never know how to end these. We're always like, okay.
I know.
Well, bye.
Bye. See ya.
We'll see ya. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Craft and Crashouts, a weekly podcast by Ari and Mick. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow along wherever you are listening to stay up to date for the next one. If you want to submit your crash out for the show, DM us at Craft and Crashouts on Instagram or email us at craftandcrashouts@gmail.com. Feel free to send us a voice note in either format. We'll talk to you next week with more craft talk and definitely more crash outs.